Here.
Would y'all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Here.
Would y'all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? This time I'd like to welcome everybody. I'd like to also welcome the government students from Mr. Pigman's class tonight. Encourage your other students in your class, the other classmates, to come to the board meeting, find out what's going on in Norwalk City School District. Adoption for the agenda. We have a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Wick? Yes. Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Linder?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Yes.
Mrs. Schellinger? Yes.
Okay, section number 2, federal funds public input. Joyce, this is your department.
This is our federal funds. This is a requirement of accepting federal funds is that we do once a year to start the year. We ask for any public input on our federal funds if there's any thoughts on our spending of them. Our Title I program, I'll just briefly go over our programs. Our Title I program is what we use for reading and math. We use this K6 in our elementary grades to do extra support for reading and math. Title IIA is professional development for our district staff. It also does our instruction. We pay for an extra teacher through this. Title III is our English language learners. We pay for aides and a coordinator to help coordinate our English language learning program. The Title 6B, this is our IDA grant. This is special education. We use this to pay for intervention specialists and other special education help. And then Title IV Part A, this is an all-around grant that we're able to use for different things. We've used it for the STEM camp. This year we're going to be using it for a social worker and some digital literacy for our students. So those are our federal funds. And if there's any public participation on how we use our federal funds, you can speak now.
Okay, thank you. Public participation, item 3 here. Each person who wishes to address the board will be asked to give his or her name and address. Remarks should be limited to 3 minutes in length, and after everyone who wishes to do so has had an opportunity to speak, additional comments can be made up to a total allotted time of 30 minutes. Is there anyone who would like to address the board tonight? If you would like to come up to the microphone up here and address the board, you're welcome to do that at this time. Okay, moving on. Item number 4, treasurer's report. Joyce, is your microphone on down there?
Yeah. Is that better? Better? Okay. So to start, we have 2 meetings. We have our regular meeting, August 11th. We have our special meeting on August 17th. We have our August 2020 financial report. A couple items to note on that. Property tax, the final payment of the property tax arrived in August. For the year, our taxes were up, property real estate, $185,000. On the downside, our casino tax for August was down $40,000. We have had some information though that casino revenues have bounced back for the next month. It's always a lagging indicator, but they are back up. So we hope to see the casino revenues back up going forward. Our fiscal 21 permanent appropriations. This is the start of the year for our spending authority. Next, we have interim deposits. We have 2 CDs that we have new this year. We had one that was called and we had one that matured, so we replaced them with a little bit longer ones. Rates are not doing so well. So that's why we had to go a little bit longer on the CDs. Then we have our restated 403B plan document. The 403B plan is kind of like 401k in the private sector, but 403Bs are for our public employees. And this was just an IRS requirement that we restate our plan. So we are doing that, but there's no real changes to it. It's just a restatement. We have a leave of absence for a staff member. We have FMLA for another staff member. Our E-rate contract for 3 years, fiscal 21, 22, 23 with Education Plus. This is for federal E-rate services, which used to just be telephones, but now is mostly just technology. We use this to subsidize our internet. We have an invoice that needs approval for then and now. This is when the budgetary process gets out of line and the invoice arrives before the purchase order is done. Then we have donations. We had musical instruments valued at $1,000 from Dr. Kathleen De La Cruz. Then we had multiple donations that add up to $1,450. And this is for the Happy Numbers program at Maplehurst Elementary. This is something Jordan Bradle put together for her entire school. It was a program she used last year and really liked it, and she was able to get these donations together so that they can have it again this year. We also have a SLATE grant that Mrs. Folk was instrumental in getting for us. That's for Ed Puzzle. And then we had multiple vials of hand sanitizer from Supercuts in Norwalk that they brought in and donated for the district. And that's all I have.
Okay, we have a motion to accept all items in the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion? Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Salinger. Yes. Mrs. Witt.
Yes.
Mr. Linder.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler.
Yes. Okay, item number 5, personnel. Mr. Chris.
All right, under personnel, items for approval. Number 1, we have 3 resignations of 3 outstanding team members. Ms. Atkinson, Mr. Boos, and Ms. Vasquez. All 3 have served our students well, and we're sad to see all 3 of them go. Number 2, joining our team, taking over at the high school in our ELA department, Heather Dumbeck. Number 3 there, employment of classified staff. Mr. Blakely is a bus driver, Ms. Logan for cook's helper, Ms. Rubio, educational assistant for ELL, and Ms. Baca will be our ASP clerk through us and stationed at St. Paul. Number 4, stipends for the 2020-2021 school year. We have our new teacher, $150 stipend for attending teacher orientation on 8/25 as listed. Our mentors, which is part of our resident educator program, and the current staff members with the new staff and who they'll be mentoring listed. Study table at Norwalk High School. Mr. Kania to continue serving as the Director of Alternative Discipline Programs. And then our staff for the Alternative Discipline Supervisors at Norwalk High School. Number 5 is our A and B certified supplemental contracts. As a reminder, this is an element of our negotiated agreement with our teaching staff. And this is the order in which we find subs if we cannot find someone from outside of the district to sub. And we have to cover classes internally. Number 6, home instruction tutor. Number 7, our substitutes, both certified and classified. Number 8, supplemental contract for Samantha Roberts as freshman class advisor. And number 9, employment special contracts, football and major ed advisor. And those are all the items under personnel.
A motion to accept all items under personnel. Thank you, Mr. Linder. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Linder.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler.
Yes.
Mrs. Salinger. Yes. Mrs. Witt. Yes.
Item number 6, superintendent's report.
Under number 1, we have 2 parts. We have the updated face covering policy or mask policy. And the major changes there is that policy comes into alignment with the state mandate in terms of face coverings. Most notably, what's been removed are the references to face shields, since those have been determined to not be allowable based on the state mandate. And the second one's the exemption form for those staff and students that qualify for an exemption. Number 2 is an exciting one based on some moving around of our different funds that we've received. We've been able to bring back, we had originally cut adding a school nurse this year, but due to some rearranging of some of our federal funds and some of the other stimuluses that we received, we can get back to hiring a school nurse for the district using our wellness, our student success and wellness funds. And number 3 is a memorandum of understanding for our Head Start preschool services. Number 4 is our agreement with Huron County Board of Developmental Disabilities to serve our students that have developmental disabilities. And number 5, I'm going to allow Joyce to explain so I don't misspeak as to why we need to approve Norwalk Catholic Schools nursing contract.
The Norwalk Catholic Schools nursing contract, they're paying for this with their federal funds through the equitable services. The private schools receive federal funds. They also receive what's called auxiliary service funds from the state. Those funds are always handled by the public district that the private school is located in. And by law, the public district has to enter into the contract with the vendor that the private school would like to use. And all public school contracts have to be approved by the board, so therefore that's why it's being approved. This was something that we haven't really been doing in the past. I didn't realize this until I had a webinar with ODE, that we actually need to be approving the contracts for them. So going forward, we'll be seeing these contracts on here. There'll be the nursing ones. They also use North Point ESC for some of their services and some of the other ESCs. So this will be something that we'll be seeing going forward.
And lastly, before I finish, I'd just like to share that school nursing program is a new program, a new service that's offered by Fisher Titus. And we're very appreciative that they've gotten into offering that program, as it's a substantial savings over the cost that we were looking at last year of what a school nurse was going to cost us through some other vendors. They're providing a great service at a remarkable price. So we're very grateful that they've started that program. And that's all.
We have a motion to accept all items under the superintendent report.
So moved.
Thank you. Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
How often will we have a nurse? I mean, is it just as needed, or are they actually going to be here 5 days a week during all the buildings?
We've set them up to work every day that students are in session. So it'd be 180-ish days.
Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Wick?
Yes.
Mrs. Stellinger?
Yes.
Mr. Linder?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Yes. Okay, item number B, item for discussion, elementary school building. We've received word from Mr. Dan Obrinba. I believe I pronounced his name right. He's a project executive with Fanning Howie. And according to this gentleman, if we were to build a new elementary building, the state share would be 78%, and our share would be 22%. I feel that if we plan this right, we could have a nice brand new elementary building, and we would not have to raise any taxes in this district at all. And there may be, if planning goes right, a decrease in taxes. So we would get a new elementary building, and that with no increase in taxes, and the state pays about 78% of it. That's a win-win situation for us. And I'd like to know anyone else's feelings, if you have some tonight, to express them tonight, and maybe we can get this project going. I can pass the microphone down to you.
I think what our office was referring to is that by the time we get the building built, the bond levy for the high school will be paid off. And all you're doing is taking the money that you paid for the high school and just rolling it straight over. And like you said, there'll be no increase in taxes. And to me, I mean, it's just a win situation. I mean, the state paying 78%. I mean, that's like someone telling you that you're going to build a $400,000 house, and you only have to pay $80,000 for it, without taxes going up and without anything else going up. I mean, to me, this is a no-brainer. And people that I talked to when I was going door to door when I was campaigning, we had a lot of support out there for this. You have a brand new building, air conditioned, which is a big contention among parents right now, when it was gonna be hot. And so to me, I think it's a win-win situation for everybody involved.
Anyone else? I guess my next question would be, do we want to contact the Ohio Facilities Commission and get the ball rolling?
You looking for a motion on that, Ralph, or what?
Well, it's just, I don't think we need a motion. I don't think we really need a motion. We just need to give us the okay. If you're fine with that, we'll hold up Ohio Facilities Commission. Bring them in and have them go over what they need to go over with us and then go from there. But that's the first step, I would say, isn't it, Mr. Fitz?
Now, how long does it take for this to get going on? I mean, this isn't just an overnight thing, right?
No, this will take some substantial time. The district last went through this process prior to my getting here, and this is year number 6. So there'll be some substantial updating and assessments of the buildings, I think, that'll need to go before we can really get into a planning process. So we can contact OSCC and just get the ball rolling and set up some meetings to start doing some of that analyzing.
I mean, we've been talking about this a little bit, talking about, I think, I don't know, last year we was talking about going ahead and seeing if we can't buy the property, we need to do it. So I myself, I'm in agreement. Let's get, I mean, by the time we get things going and get the study done and you know, it's going to be a little bit before we can get going if we get going right now. By the time I'm guessing, by the time we do all the legwork and all the engineering that needs done and what have you, it's going to be a couple of years before it gets started.
I wouldn't disagree with that at all.
Yeah, I'm for it. If that's what you're looking for.
And I'd like to bring them in to see if we can lock in that 78%. That's a nice chunk of change there. And if we can lock that in, that's going to save our district a ton of money.
How often do they run that ranking? Is it a certain time of year that they do the numbers? Do we know?
I think from what I looked up for the equity ranking is they do it once a year and it's on your adjusted valuation of your district and it's a 3-year average. So each year they would do a new one and it would depend on what your valuation is. Valuation's been dropping compared to the pupil numbers, which is why the equity share has gone up on the state side.
I mean, I've been saying it for years. Looking at the money that we're dumping in these old buildings every year, you're dumping, you know, between 80 and a couple $100,000 in roofs and heating stuff. So, George, I know when you started with us, that's the first thing you looked at. You said something about be nice to close some of these buildings down. So I think we're just spinning our wheels. We need to get rolling on it with.
It appears back in 2011, it appears that our share was 42%. So that means the state was going to pick up, 58%. So it's gone to our favor since then. And I just like to get rolling on this. And I think calling these people in here and sitting down with them, see if they have the say for us with us and go from there. Beth?
Is that guaranteed money though from the state, like with the economy the way it is? The budget bill, you know, the school, is that for sure what we would get, or they're gonna take a look at that again and say, hey?
I haven't seen any talk of reducing the budget. Have you, Joyce?
It is more or less guaranteed money. The state facility money was actually from the tobacco settlement many years ago, and they put that in bonds, and that's what they use for their school facility funding. So they actually had so many districts go that they had to approve releasing more money. So it is kind of guaranteed as much as anything can be.
Okay. And does it lock in after we have discussion or when we begin discussion? I vaguely remember a little bit about it.
I don't for sure remember. I feel that maybe it locks in when you pass the bond levy, for sure. But until, I mean, we can meet with them and get all the details on how it works.
Something else that's probably good on this is with this COVID going on, there's gonna be a whole bunch of different designing of classrooms, getting them bigger, I'm sure, and so it's kind of a nice deal that we kind of come to this conclusion this late in doing this, really.
Well, and they have those new ventilation, things that are out now. I know Bellevue's put them in, Hoby's gonna put one in. So we could always have that included with the bill. It'd be worth it.
I guess I'd like to see us at least meet with them and see what they're gonna offer us. I mean, if for some reason, like they said, if the budget went haywire and our price went way up, we're not obligated to at least stay with it. I mean, I think we should at least look into it and see what our costs are gonna be, and then we can go from there.
I'm assuming Ralph and Dwayne, you guys would be the ones meeting with them?
I can. I think it's just Joyce and George.
Well, it's John.
Board
and
rep?
I did it
Okay.
One time. That was when I first got elected, so it was probably two board reps.
Okay, we'll get a hold of them and we'll go from there. Item C, number 1, the Ehovie news.
Okay, Hobie, I like it when my meetings are before ours. So instead of starting out the first 2 weeks, they did hybrid and they were gonna do remote, they changed it and they're strictly doing hybrid until further notice. They have set up Verizon hotspots, because they had 28 families that were not able to get internet connection. This is not my expertise. I just know that whatever the bandwidth, so the computer people know what all this means. You can have up to 16 users, because I know a lot of parents were, with multiple kids were concerned about that. I don't know if that's something just through Verizon, I have no idea. They showed us a school-based health center, which is located behind Ehovie, which will be basically a health office with a nurse, a registered nurse, a medical doctor, and a mental. I don't know exactly what her title was, so forgive me on that. This will be for the students, the adult students and staff. The future is to have public around, as in the area, to be able to go there for checkups and miscellaneous things. They'll also eventually have a dentist there, chiropractor there. They do have other locations, Job and Family Services in Sandusky, there's Port Clinton, Norwalk and Executive, and it's not open yet, but Vermillion High School will actually have a medical office at their place. And lastly, last year, at the end of the year, they were talking about an e-hall pass, which now is in effect. So instead of having different items being a pass for the students, it's all programmed. It's kind of like a GPS, and the students kind of check in, and teachers know where they're at, where they're supposed to be going, and whatnot. And that's all I have.
Okay, legislative report. Anything there? Nothing new. Seamless summer option. That's Joyce. Okay.
This is a food service thing. We just got approval on it today. This is Ross, let us know. This is a really good program. This is what we did at the end of last school year when we were closed down for our students, and we're going to be able to carry it forward until December 31st, where we, instead of doing the federal national lunch program, we use this instead. It means that all our students will be able to eat, and the entire cost is going to be reimbursed by the federal government. So that's really great for us. This means that any students that have paid between when school started and probably tomorrow, she's going to start it, we'll reimburse that amount back to their lunch account. But this was really good news.
That's very good.
Okay, thank you. Item number 7, executive session. We'll need a motion to go into executive session. Oh, the October meeting?
Okay, I'd like to ask the board if they would be willing to move the October board meeting back a week. I'm going to be in Florida until October 9th. And the CDC came out and said that we don't have to quarantine now, but just to protect you, I would like to move it back a week if that's okay.
I myself would like to see you cancel that trip so we don't have to do this.
Cancel the trip.
I'm willing to, but tell my wife that.
What date are we talking? October 20th? It's okay with me.
What's that?
October 20th?
Yeah.
Is it okay with everybody else?
Okay, for the
Yeah.
20th?
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. And one other thing too, I'd like to commend George and Corey and Amy for the willingness to change the calendar and start school 5 days, just a week into the school year. It shows that they kept their promise to the parents and the public. And I really would like to commend them for their effort on that.
Okay, thank you. All right, item number 7, executive session. We'll need a motion to go into executive session for the reasons printed on the agenda. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Mrs. Wick. Do I have a second? Thank you. Roll call?
Mrs. Wick?
Yes.
Mrs. Stellinger?
Yes.
Mr. Linder?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzendal?
Yes, there will be no further action by the board after the executive session.